Right, folks, Cam Hawkins here from Trading Up. Welcome to this live stream with Richard Nasr. Now, this is the first one he's doing, so guys, please give him a hand and give him some support. So take it easy on him. If there's some technical issues, that's probably why. He is going to be here every week, though, doing this live trading live stream. We're going to start off with crypto, and we're going to alternate it between crypto and Forex. So this one's going to be crypto focused, and the next one's going to be Forex, and we're going to rotate like that. So we'll be here every week. Other things to think about, folks, is we've got the Trading Up Funded Cup available as well. So if you're looking to enter a demo trading competition over there at Trading Up, there are links under the video here. And what else do I need to remind you of? Oh, yeah, so because this is a crypto video, I should tell you about my crypto sponsor, Bitget. Now, these guys are doing amazing things over there in the crypto world. So one of the newest things that they have started is this BGB earn. So this is their token. You can actually earn, by the looks of it, so low threshold, high yield. So like over, what was this one? 14 days, you could have earned 6%. Over 7 days, you could have earned 3.5%. This is APR, which means across the year. So they're obviously doing these. That's sold out, and I think there's going to be more that pop up here and there. So they're doing that. That's a new thing you could go and check out over there, along with their copy trade service. And obviously, they are one of the largest crypto derivative exchanges as well. So guys, if you do want to check them out, I think there's a $153 bonus that you can get from rewards, or up to 3,000 USDT in rewards as well. So go and check that out. Put a link under the video as well. All right, enough from me. Let's get on with this live stream with Richard.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing good. Hope you can hear me well, right? Let me check my microphone real quick. If you can hear me well, let me know in the chat and the comments. Let me know just to make sure that everything is working properly. Fantastic. Hope you're doing good, guys. Like, put yes or 1 or +1 if you can hear me well. Okay. You know what? I'll start talking. If you can't hear me, let me know in the comments, okay? So first of all, hope you're having a fantastic week, everyone. And thank you, Cam, again, for the opportunity. It's truly an honor to be here every Thursday. Let me check the chat. Okay, Kalpana, let me know. You can hear me well, right? Just like double checking everything before I get started. Okay. Okay, fantastic. And like one more thing before we get started, I want to say congrats to Cam. Like 30 minutes ago, the channel Trading Not reached 100K subscribers. What a milestone, full of effort, energy, and time. You are doing an amazing job here. Cam, you deserve the best, gentleman. I truly, truly appreciate everything you do. Now, for those who don't know me, right, I'm Richard, as Cam mentioned, as known as the Signalist, but you can call me Rich. This is my second appearance here. The first appearance was last week. It was on a podcast, episode number 111. What a special number, right? And then I took the challenge, Forex Simulator Challenge. I guess it's part 2, where I ranked first. So for those who watched these videos previously, I hope that you enjoyed it. So now, and as Cam mentioned, I'll be here every Thursday. For today, we are going to focus on crypto. I'll be doing my live analysis as detailed and practical as possible, but you can apply the same logic or like strategies on any instrument. For this week, we'll go over crypto. Of course, we'll start with total, Bitcoin, Ethereum to feel the overall market, and then we'll dive into some altcoins that I've prepared. But feel free to request any altcoin analysis. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll keep an eye on it. So after like every 5 or 10 minutes, I'll check the comments. And of course, don't forget to like this video. It will help reach as many traders as possible. Of course, if you like believe that the content is like good and worth sharing with others. So smash that like button. It will help the channel Trading Nuts and will help this video reach as many traders. Now it's going to be a long session, so grab a cup of coffee or tea, sit back and enjoy it. And as usual, before I get started, as usual, for those who know me, cheers. So let's do it. Let me share my screen again and again because it's my first time here. So let me know if you can see it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, share screen. And that's it. So now you should be seeing my total chart, right? Because we start with it to feel the overall market. Let me add myself here. Fantastic. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you can see my chart. It's total chart, total market cap. So let me know in the comments. Okay, fantastic, Victor and Anko. I'm very happy to see you here also. Amazing, amazing. Okay, the sound is fine. Fantastic. Can you see my screen, all right? So let's get into it. If you can see it, let me know in the comments. Okay, so Victor said, I'm testing like the comments. So I can highlight a comment. As you can see here, it's now at the bottom of the screen. Hello, Victor, and hello, Anko. Fantastic. So, and looks good. Let's do it. So as usual, for those who already know, for those who don't, like you'll get a pretty good idea about my trading style today in this session. So we'll always start with total to get an overall view about the overall crypto market. The same thing what I do when I like go over like Forex. I start with the DXY, which is the dollar index, right, to feel the overall market. And you can clearly see that total has been overall bullish for a while, trading inside this rising brown channel, right? So we've got our first low, a higher low, high, and higher high. So we can draw this channel, and price rejected the lower band. So I've been mentioning this channel for a while now, that when price was around here, that this is a possible rejection zone. It's a non-horizontal support. Of course, now like I've prepared already, these are my charts, which are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. But later on, we'll start with a fresh new chart, and we'll do it together, right? For one and Quant, and then we'll go over like these ones. I have a big list, like I'm holding like many coins. So if you have a specific one, let me know in the comments. But let's take it step by step. For total, as mentioned previously, we are overall bullish. We had this impulse correction, and we are currently around the lower bound. Okay, so when we want to approach a chart, first of all, we want to know where we are in the markets. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside that range? We'll get into it in a bit when we are going over the one, which is the chart, analyzing it from scratch. But for now, we know that we are overall bullish, and previously price broke above this like last high. If we zoom into lower time frames to daily, we know that we were overall bullish previously. Then price made a head and shoulders pattern, which is basically a higher high and then a lower high, which means that the bulls failed to trade higher just like before and make a higher high. Instead, they made a lower high, which means that the buyers aren't as strong as they were before. But of course, doesn't mean that the bears are in control yet. For the bears to take over, we need to see a momentum candle close below it, which in this case, it would be the neckline of the head and shoulders pattern. So the sellers took over here. We had a classic retest, and the bearish movement started. So impulse correction, and here we go. Then we are now stuck inside this range in the shape of a symmetric triangle. Price broke it upward, but as mentioned many times for those who have been following me on my channels on TradingView or YouTube, that we need a break above this area. As you can see, we've got many wicks rejecting this area here for the bulls to take over from a long-term perspective. Meanwhile, the bears can still kick in for another correction inside this symmetric triangle and also test the lower brown trend line one more time before trading higher. So long story short, we are overall bullish on weekly time frame, right? Rejecting the lower band, we can still test it one more time. We have our break of the previous high. We still need a break above this high here for them to take over from a long-term perspective. Meanwhile, we can still test this area, and unless it's broken downward, which is this low here, then a movement till our next rejection would be expected, which is obviously this demand area, which is this bearish candle right before this bullish movement started. So that's basically it for total. Let's move forward to Bitcoin. So here we go. I don't know why this one disappeared. Maybe I deleted it by mistake. That's it. So we are overall bullish. You can see like pretty much the same like view on total, like just here the channel is more flat. You can see that this is a rising one, while on Bitcoin it's a flat one. So the same exact analysis, impulse correction, broke above the previous high. For the buy to take full control from a long-term perspective, sorry, we need a break above these highs here, which happens to be a strong support, turn resistance again, right? And also a 50k round number, which is obviously very, very strong. So inside this chart, okay, we've got the 40k, 30k, 70k, and so on. But of course, the 10, 50k, and 100k are the strongest round numbers. Okay, so that's basically it. And if you go to the daily time frame, you can see that previously we were bearish after breaking below this low without impulse correction, and so on. We are currently trading inside this bullish channel, so we are expecting a rejection from here. Of course, we don't buy blindly. We always zoom into lower time frames. We'll get to it in a bit. But we know that we are overall bullish from weekly, unless, of course, we have a break below this low and below the channel, then a movement till our next support will be expected, which is around 30k, 28k. So let me add the 28k. I don't know why, like maybe I deleted by mistake these two ones. So that's it. Here we go, right? So now you can see better because like these ones are equidistant to these ones and so on. That's how I like to keep my chart as clean as possible. So that's basically it. Broke above this one, a classic correction. So like for now, we have a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. We can see it very clearly. We've got our bearish movement, consolidation, and then we had a break above it. And we can see it from my other view, which I also shared a couple of weeks ago, that we had this distribution, markdown, accumulation, markup, distribution, markdown, and so on. So now we are inside this accumulation, price broke it upward, but we still need a break above this one, which is the 50k that I mentioned previously, for the buyer to take over from a long-term perspective and then expect this impulse movement upward. Meanwhile, just like we saw from my other view here, which is like a zoomed in view, that we are currently approaching this area and we'll be looking for buy setups around here. Now, if you zoom into lower time frames, we can even check when the correction is going to start or when the impulse is going to start. I also posted this one previously and posted this one previously, that now we are overall bullish, right? Making high lows and higher highs for the sellers to take over or for the correction movement to start, especially that we're around the upper band, we're around 40, 50K, which is a very strong area that we need a break above. And if you go to H1 time frame, we can see that price rejected it. The bears took over after breaking below this low, and we had a classic rejection. We couldn't break above it, right? We can see multiple wicks rejecting this area, and then we traded higher. So this is the confirmation that the sellers took over, and this was the confirmation that the bulls took over for the next impulse movement to start, and then we started to make higher highs and higher lows, right? So that's it. Now we are following the same logic. We are overall bearish, making lower highs and lower lows, right? So now we are waiting for the bulls to take over. If we zoom a little bit in, we can see that this minor high, here we go, this minor high is broken upward, but it's just from a short-term perspective to confirm that from a medium-term perspective, the bulls took over. We still need to see like a pattern like this, for example, which would be a third swing to form around the upper trend line, and also a bigger swing, not just like this small one, a bigger swing or bigger consolidation broken upward. Then we can confirm that the buyers are ready to make this second impulse movement upward. Meanwhile, we are obviously bearish, big impulse, flat correction, big impulse. We are currently in this correction phase, just a correction. We might see another big impulse movement up downward, or we might also see like this, maybe the bears will fail to make a lower low, which give us an early alert that a potential reversal might happen. But for the buyers to take over, we need to see this break. So let me take a break because I said break, and check the comments. Okay. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I would be happy to answer it. Fantastic, good vibes, fantastic, Anko. I'm glad that you are here. You can see your screen perfectly. Good morning and happy trading, you all. Fantastic, Guy, Alan. Happy to see you here. So let's go over Ethereum now before going over our like practical life example. The same exact analysis, right? You can check it out. Price took over here. The same for Ethereum. Price took over here, and like in this particular case, we also had an inverse head and shoulders a head and shoulders pattern, not an inverse one, a classic one. And as you can see, this is our neckline. Price broke it down. The correction movement started. And here we go, our first impulse, correction, impulse, and we are currently in this correction phase. We can see, here we go, a higher high, higher low, higher high, and a higher low, right? So the exact same thing that we saw here. So for the bears to remain in control, we need to see this movement like this, okay? And we might see a higher low, and then for the buyers to take over, we need to see the break that we mentioned previously. Also, if we check left, we can see this area here, which has been respected previously as minor support, now acting as a minor resistance. So long story short, for Ethereum, just like on Bitcoin and Total and almost on all altcoins, that's why it's very important to start with these three. Of course, you can also check like USDT dominance, Bitcoin dominance, and so on to feel the overall market. But I believe that anyway, we'll check it out in a bit if you want. But anyway, I always stick to the total because it will give us everything that we need. We don't need to complicate things. Of course, in some cases you might check it, but I always keep an eye on total, which is the total market cap, which is like pretty much sums it all. Okay, so that's what I'm waiting for on Ethereum as well. Of course, unless we have a break below the 3K, which is obviously our next support area. Here we go, and look at how clean Ethereum chart is. It looks pretty much like total, right? So a rising channel. Here we go. You can see the exact same movements. So let me show it to you in a practical way. Here we go, right? So while overall bullish, trading inside this rising brown channel, rejected this area, traded higher, broke above our 3K round number or resistance, was acting as resistance here, turned support here, broken downward, acting as resistance here, now broken upward, acting as a support area, right? So like now Ethereum, if you wanted in simple terms, it's trading inside this floor, right? So like this is our building, and we are trading inside this floor. Previously, we had this building, right? And we had this floor, broken downward, resistance, and now we are trading in this one here. So price, first of all, broke above the first floor, which things are looking good for now, and rejecting the floor, which is obviously like the floor, like in all terms, and this is our ceiling now. So like for me to go for my neighbor's floor, which is obviously here, I need like to break the ceiling upward, and here we go, and this one would be acting as our next support. So we are technically now in a bullish trend. We were in a bearish trend previously. Price broke above these lows here, started the bearish trend, the correction, impulse, and then we had a deep correction, which means that the buyers are very strong now. The sellers are still in control, but the buyers are very strong now because they made it and made a deep correction. Because usually in a bearish trend, you will be seeing like small correction and big impulse pushing at the direction of the trend, right? So big impulse, small correction, big impulse, small, big, small, right? So big impulse, but also a big correction, which means that the buyers are kicking in. It doesn't mean that the buyers took over yet, but they are trying like to push very hard, like if you compare it to previously. It happens to be also around what it happens, right? So like a coincidence that it's around this intersection, which I mentioned many times previously, like when price was here, that this is a very strong area because it's the intersection or the confluence of this non-horizontal support and brown, which is our lower trend line, engulfing the overall movement upward, which is this channel, right? So rejected this area, intersection of this round trend line and the 2.5K round number. So as you can see, like here, if you check my lines, you can see that price is pretty good respecting these ones, 2.5K, 3K, 1.5. So like the difference of 500 between each one. However, for Bitcoin, it's a little bit different, but the same logic can be applied. 40K, 50K, 60K, so 10K difference between each floor. And as you can see, price has been respecting these areas for a long period of time. Resistance here, support here, resistance here, right? Broken upward, support now, resistance, and so on. And price now rejected this area. Okay, so like that's how you start from a macro view and then zoom into lower time frames for like a better view to dive in. Now let's like continue with Ethereum before jumping into our live examples from scratch, because now like I have my lines already. It's very easy for like everyone to like just open any chart with the lines there and then do it. But like to learn in a practical way, you should do it from scratch. You should like draw it in front of you and so on. And like I'm known that I like practical learning a lot. So let's do it on H4 time frame, the exact same scenario that we saw on Bitcoin. Price like rejected this area, took over here, the sellers first impulse correction, and as mentioned anyway, I've covered it at the start. For H1 while waiting for this to happen. Meanwhile, and unless the sellers can break back below the 3K, then it would become a resistance and a movement till the next support area would be expected. So we can't really know what might happen next. Okay, so don't predict what might happen. Don't try to catch the exact top and bottom. Always wait for the market to make the first move, just like chess. Right, so like when you're playing chess, wait for your opponent to make the first move and then you react accordingly. Okay, the exact same thing. Our opponent here in this case is the chart or the market or other players, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that is basically it. You can see many like altcoins having the exact same or like pretty much close to it analysis. Now let's go for our example for this one. Like I'll just leave it as blank, like just to make my drawings, right? So for this one, let's go for one and do it from scratch. Before I go over one, let me check the chat. Okay, Hussein, nice. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you are enjoying the materials. Let me know, guys, if you have any questions. Meanwhile, I'll take a sip. Cheers. Okay, fantastic. Okay, I'll start with our one analysis and then get back in a bit, or like after I'm done to check the comments. Let's do it. So on one, we always start from the higher time frames, which we call our rejection time frames, weekly and daily. All right, we always want to know where we are in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside a range? Right, once we know where we are in the market, we can look for setups accordingly, because I don't want to look for setups. For example, I don't want to look for buy setups around the upper band at the end of the impulse. Vice versa, I don't want to look for sell setups around the lower band or around a support area. Okay, so it's very important to know, first of all, where you are in the market. So half of the work is done on daily and weekly, and then the other half, which is like pretty simple and straightforward, no matter which strategy that you are using. It's very important, whether you're using moving average, whether you're using supply and demand, like no matter if you're using indicator or not, it's always good to start from the higher time frames and then you zoom into lower time frames, H4, H1, and 30, or however you want to dive in, depends on your time, trading plan, expectations, risk management, like many stuff. You look for setups. So we start from weekly time frame, and as you can see here for my notes, we need to identify three things. The first, which is very important to start from higher time frames. The first one is overall trend. Which I mentioned previously. Are you overall bullish, bearish, or inside the range? You can see it visually, right? You don't need any indicators or lines or anything to tell you. We can see that the overall trend is obviously bullish, right? So next, we need to find our rejection area. So first, done, we are bullish. Second, we want to find, because we are bullish, we are looking for buy setups. But where do we look for buy setups? We always wait for a rejection. So like you can't really just say, because I'm bullish, I'll be entering a buy immediately. or like blindly, because you might be entering a buy here and you will suffer with a long period of drawdown, right? We want to enter at the best rate possible, right? And because like, okay, give me a minute. Okay, fantastic. Everything is working perfectly. Fantastic. Okay, so we want to enter at the best rate possible, and like with a best risk to reward ratio. That's why we always wait for our rejection. Our rejection, you've got three types. The first one is a typical support and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level or area. The second one is just like support and resistance, but it would be non-horizontal, so it would be a trend line, a channel, a wedge, a rising broadening wedge, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it depends on the pattern. The third type of rejection is a supply and demand zone, where we have an aggressive movement upward, that's a demand. We have an aggressive movement downward, that's a supply, right? So let's do just that on one. And last but not least, we look for our triggers. But first of all, we need to find these two, which is half of the work, which you basically you do it only once, right? Like you will do it once per year because it's from the daily and weekly. Like every 6 months, maybe you zoom out again and update your charts. So like even if you will spend some time on higher time frame, but you will do it only once. On lower time frames, of course, you will get more data, more setups, but on higher time frames, it's just that would be it. So while overall bullish, we already know that. Let's find our rejections. So we want first of all to find the overall direction. Want to find a rejection area which engulfs the overall movement. In our case, it's pretty simple. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very, very straightforward. We've got this trend line here. I usually like to make it in brown, right, for my rejection areas, and I always double check that it's visible on all time frames. So what I draw on weekly, I want to see it on lower time frames. What I draw on weekly, I don't want to see it on monthly. So what I draw something on H4, I don't want to see it on daily and above. I want to see it on H4 and below, H1 and 30. Okay, so like that's the trick. And I want to find the upper bound. Usually what I do is just like I drag and drop it, right? So you press on control and like you click on it and you drag and drop it. As you can see, price here broke up a little bit. So I adjusted to like fit the current price action. Here we go. So now we've got a rising broadening wedge. Anyway, don't worry about the names of the patterns. It's just like these two trend lines. This is our upper bound. This is our lower bound. Okay. Second, let's go for our second type of rejection, which is a horizontal support and resistance. Now, you can't find much, but when you find one, it would be very strong. So first of all, what you will do is that you will draw a random line and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. Of course, we'll keep the all-time high around 3.75 and 4. Sorry, 0.375 and 4. Of course, like the 4 has been respected very, very well previously, as you can see, to the point, and price kept moving lower. So it's pretty a very strong area. So as price approaches it, it's the intersection of the upper trend line and this all-time high, 4 round number, and so on. It would be a very strong area. Of course, like if you are buying it on spot, of course you will consider closing some, or like closing it all, or like closing your buy, like when price approaches this area. Next, let's go for green, because we've got already our blue up there, right? So we drag and drop it, and you can see many rejections from this area, which is around 2, and let's go for 2, 3, right? So to keep it clean, of course, it's an entire zone, not a laser level, so you should treat it like this. Okay, but to make it cleaner for this stream, I'll keep it as a level. Next, let's go for blue for our next rejection, and here we go. If we go lower, we can see many rejections from this area, right? It's for now, this is the strongest one. It was acting as resistance previously, broken upward, support again, then broken downward. Now it's acting as a resistance area, right? So it's also a very strong one. I'll not go over a round number because to save time, because we've got a lot to cover. Like as much as you would like. I don't mind. I have like a couple of hours. I can like stay as much as you guys want. Next, if you go lower, we can see that we've got what? We've got this demand area, right? So I have an aggressive movement output from it. It's a rally, base, and then a rally again, right? just like this one, a rally, a base, and a rally again. So this is a supply zone, and this is a demand zone, an aggressive movement up. Of course, we've got a supply zone here also, of course, with the upper trend line in brown and so on. So we've got what, as mentioned previously, this area. I'll make it in green. Let's go for the lighter one. Moreover, we've got what? We've got this level. Let's make it in green, which is our round number 0.1, which is a very strong round number. So it happens to be that we've got a round number, also like a minus point resistance, support here, resistance here, but it's not as strong as this one, which you can see many rejections from it. It's still a good one, but not as strong as the upper one. And we've got a demand. We've got what, also the lower brown trend line. So this area would be a massive one to look for setups, because it's the intersection of 1, low brown trend line, 2, a demand area, 3, a round number 1. So that's how you look for your edge in the market. You look for areas where you've got many confluences or many tools lining up together. Okay, as you can see, previously price rejected it, and now this weekly ends, we got like 3-4 more days, but this week is looking like good so far. Okay, that's it for weekly. Let's go to daily time frame. On daily time frame, we know that we were overall bullish previously. Big impulse, small correction, big impulse, small correction, impulse, broke below the previous low. Now we are bearish, right? So we've got our first impulse, correction, impulse, correction, and here price failed to make a lower low, instead made an equal low, which is basically a double bottom pattern, which means that the sellers are exhausted and couldn't push lower as they were pushing before. It couldn't make a lower low. Okay, then price got stuck inside the consolidation, and since, as mentioned previously, we've got this area here, price rejected it downward and traded lower, and we know that the sellers took over here by breaking what? By breaking below this range, which is also basically a head and shoulders pattern, or a double top bottom, or a trend line here. So we've got many confluences here that we know that the sellers might be taking over by breaking below this structure, this range. Okay, so like that's how you start from the zoomed out picture. We know that we've got a very strong resistance, but of course price might break it upward, right? So we can't really know. Don't predict. We always wait for the market and react. If here we've got an aggressive bullish candle breaking it upward, then this area would become a support. And yes, we can say that now the bulls took over by breaking above the high, which is also a double bottom. Now they are taking over by breaking above the resistance, which is now acting as support, and we can look for buy on the retest. But for now, we are approaching a resistance area, so price can still push lower, reject it one more time before breaking it upwards. Right? Which is exactly what happened. How do we know that sellers took over? Here we go. Right? Now, the exact same logic, let's apply it. Approaching a support area, we'll be looking for buy setups. Of course, price can still, just like break it upward, can still break it downward, right? For it to become a resistance and trade lower and lower. That's why we don't buy blindly. We always zoom into lower time frames and look for extra confirmation. Now, if you zoom in a little bit more, we can see that just like we saw in Ethereum and Bitcoin, price broke above a minor high, right? But like, look at this one. Like, these ones are stronger, are bigger. So we know that the bulls are taking over now from a short-term perspective, but it can just be a correction before we trade lower. That's why it's not a shift in momentum yet. Okay, so we wait for extra confirmation for it. We can clearly see that after breaking below this range here, price started to trade lower. We've got our impulse correction, and so on. So now we have this high, which is a very strong high, as we clearly see an aggressive movement downward, and or we've got this channel here. And let's make an offset. Let's make it in red and make an offset for it. Fantastic. So now, just like Ethereum and Bitcoin, that's why we start with these two. We can still trade lower. In this case, this one would become our last major high. Let's make it in gray, and then maybe form a double bottom or like any bullish reversal. Anyway, it's enough. We already got our channel here. In this case, we'll be buying after a break above this area. But for now, if price kept moving higher, it would mean that the short-term reversal might be extended to become the long-term reversal. In this case, we'll be buying after a break above this one, or of course, whatever suits your trading plan, strategy, and so on. I'm just sharing my trading plan. Okay, so that would be it for one. Let's go and do one more example. Let's pick Quant. I picked this one like not because it's a financial advice to buy. Of course, I like QNT. Like if I don't like it, I wouldn't be like doing it. I wouldn't be spending energy and time to like go over it, right? So I like Quant QNT, but I picked it for like from the like that empty chart to do it together is because like we don't have enough data, right? So I picked it because it would be a practical example, because on one, as you clearly see, already got a lot of data. So we can draw multiple things, support, resistance, trend lines, and so on. But for Quant, it would be a good practical example to do it in this particular case. Let me check the chat, take a sip of coffee, and check if you guys have any questions. Okay, so Andre is asking, okay, so like, sorry, like I kept the comment. I forgot to put hide. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just learning. So for this comment, love the analysis. How can set stop loss on the trade for good risk management? Fantastic. I'll go over it in a bit. SPX 500. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, Baker. I can't really go over it today, right? So like this one is dedicated for crypto only. Next Thursday, I'll be going over forex, indices, and so on. So hopefully next week, if I forget, like forgive me, feel free to remind me here in the chat if you are available. Okay, for today, feel free to ask anything related to crypto, of course, related to the chart. Because like I'm a pure price action trader, so feel free to ask anything. For the stop loss thing, let's click on hide. I'm learning here, so let's check it out. Okay, so let's take an example for one. Okay, so when you are looking for a buy setup, okay, let me go to H1. Okay, so let's see. You know what? Since we had an example previously, which is here, right? So this is it. Here we go, right? So we entered a sell after a break above this area. Of course, if you trade it on margin or futures or anything, like you have to place your stop loss. Or if you're trading it on spot, like you know that when you trade is no longer valid. When you buy, I want to know like when I want to sell. If like this one like goes against me, of course you can keep holding. That's a strategy that I don't care if I go like over a little bit of drawdown. It depends on your style. But since you asked about stop loss, so let's say we've got the structure, whatever like your trading plan is. Let's say we have a trend line here, we have a trend line previously. If you draw this one, which is a very clean trend line, as you can clearly see, like one has been very clean lately, broke above this structure here, traded higher. We also have we also got this pattern. Like for those who are with me in the group, in the advanced group, they know that we have got a pattern here, and we got a break above it, and price started to make high lows, right? So look at how clean this one is and higher highs. Then got stuck inside a consolidation here, right? We might break above this one from daily, which I mentioned previously. We can't really know, right? We always wait for the market to make the first move. And this particular case, price got inside consolidation, didn't break above this one from daily, instead like broke. Let me delete these ones because like sometimes I get overexcited. So this is it. In this particular case, I want to sell, right? So now I'm speculating that, okay, this is what a sell means. Speculating that we've got a potential reversal, which means that now I'm speculating that we've got a bearish trend, that we're expecting lower lows and lower highs. So if I enter a sell and price decides to make a higher high again, then my trade is no longer valid. It would be just a fake out. Just like, for example, if we go back, let's say here, right? So we've got this range here, price broke it upward, right? So the logical placement of your stop loss would be below the previous low, because now I'm speculating that I'm in a bullish trend. That's why I'm buying, right? So I'm expecting that we've got our impulse, correction, impulse correction, right? So it depends on your trading style if you would go for this low or for this low. It depends on how conservative you are. You know what? Like let's be conservative. Anyway, it didn't hit this one, but like for me, I like to be conservative. I always go for this one here. Okay, so I'm expecting that the price would be making higher highs and higher lows. If it breaks and trades lower than this, it means that this is just a fake out, and probably we might trade lower, or we might just like see stop loss hunting before we form another bullish reversal, and then before trading higher again. So this is it. For long story short, for this one, like let's say you entered long here after this candle close above this area, just your stop loss would be here. And of course, it depends on your risk management, on your target. For example, you can target the next resistance, which will leave you with a 3.3 like history word, or you can stick to like a fixed R. For example, but like don't target below 2R to have like edge over the market from a risk management perspective. We already have our edge from a technical perspective, looking for buys around a support area. So that's check. Now we want an edge from a risk management perspective, which is a 2-to-1 reward ratio. Check. That's it. So like if you follow these, even with a 50% win rate, right? So like even if here price decide to trade lower, and again it would be a fake out, even with 50% win rate, you would be doing fine, because if you enter 10 trades, you lose 5, you are losing like 5R, and you win 5, like, but when you win, you win 2R, so you are winning 10R. Okay, so for the R, it depends on you if you want like to enter 1% per trade, 2% per trade, 10% per trade. I don't recommend it, but like some people do it. That's why I always go for R, right? So this is basically it. Vice versa in case of a sell. If you go lower, now expecting that I'm looking for a sell, so I want to enter a sell here. Let's say you can go for this high, or you can go for this high. It depends on your style and so on. But like if you want to be conservative, you can go for the higher one, and depends on your entry if it's around this candle or the previous one. Right, so this one here, and you can target, as mentioned before, at 2-to-1 is to reward ratio, and you will keep holding your sell. Let's say in this particular case you are holding a sell. You will keep holding your sell unless an opposite signal gets activated. So in this case, let's say you are holding a sell here, and if this happens and price activates a buy, right? So you'll be closing your sell around like 0.8R, and it depends on your trading style, because you are on a support area, you enter a buy. Okay, that would be it. Okay, I'll take more examples. I'll take more questions before I go over. I go over the next one. What do you think about BTC trends? I already covered BTC at the start, so like for now I'll continue with the remaining ones. But you will get an idea about BTC from now on, from my analysis on Quant, and so on. Okay, and at the end, if you have more time, I'll redo BTC again. Okay. So, Andre, which books do you recommend for price action and trading, please? Fantastic question. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so you can search for you can search for Mark Douglas, right? So I don't know if I'm saying it right. Mike Douglas, right? Doug you. Okay, so you've got the disciplined trader and the trader, and you've got trading chaos, okay, and many other interesting books. So you can start with these. Sorry, not trading chaos, trading in the zone. So like that another one, trading in the zone for market class. Okay, so that's what would be it. Of course, as a start, these two are very interesting. Now let me see if everything is hidden. Fantastic. Let's go for our next example, which is Quant, right? Because we don't have enough data. Okay, you always start from weekly time frame. Okay, we can't really see much, right? Because we don't have enough data on the left. But with what we have, that's why I picked this example. We've got what? We've got an aggressive movement upward, right? So we can't really know the direction, because like obviously we can't really know, because from one, for example, you can see that we are overall bullish, overall direction. Let me copy and paste these ones. Fantastic, right? So we are overall bullish. Maybe we can't really know because we just have impulse correction, right? But anyway, let's skip this one. Let's go for rejections. So I want to look for buys, right? I want to buy this one. I believe in this project and so on. I want to look for buy. I don't buy blindly, no matter how good it is and so on. I always look for rejection. In this case, we've got an aggressive movement from here. So we've got what? A demand area. We previously got a demand area here. That's the power of not buying blindly. So even if you have a demand area, price is approaching this demand, I always zoom into lower time frames and look for extra confirmation that the buyers are taking over. Okay, it's very important to always look for extra confirmation. So price broken downward, it's currently acting as a resistance area. If you can see, acted as support here, broken down, acting as a resistance. But let's focus on this lower one now. Price approached this one, rejected it, and now it's retesting it again. And we are clearly in a bearish trend. We can see it even better from daily time frame. So we were overall bullish previously, we was making higher highs and higher lows, right? And then price formed this low here and broke it downward. So starting from here, we have a shift in momentum from bullish to bearish. That's our first impulse, a flat correction, which means that the sellers are very strong. The bulls couldn't even make a healthy correction, so couldn't make like this, instead made like this, right? Flat correction, and then the sellers took the previous lows out again and started the next impulse. As you can see, also a flat correction. All right, so couldn't make a healthy one, like a rising one, and then the sellers took it out again. Okay, and then finally got stuck inside a range, which means that the sellers aren't strong enough as they were previously. So previously, we would have a low, a flat correction, a break below it, a low, flat correction, break below it. But now we can see that for the first time from this bearish trend, we are having, or we had, this healthy correction. This is the first time that we see this, right? If you check left, a flat one, and so on. So, which means that the buyers are trying to push forward, but for now, the sellers are still in control until this high is like being taken out. So make this, and moreover, like I said, and moreover, so like moreover, so the price didn't make a low, instead made a higher low, which means that it's an early alert that a potential reversal might happen, and you can see it visually, right? So we can see that this it's going flat. Okay, so that's how you speculate that we might have a shift in momentum, because you can see that the impulse movements are very steep previously. So look at how steep this impulse is, and then we've got this impulse. Look how it's big, but it's flat, right? If you compare it to the previous one. Next, you can see that this is also very flat compared to the previous one, and it's also getting smaller in size. So steep, flat, still big, flat, smaller in size, and then got stuck inside the consolidation. That's how you speculate that you might see a potential reversal soon. Okay, but from a long-term perspective, from daily at least, the buyers didn't take over yet. For them to take over, we need to see a break above this area. That's why you see my alerts here at around 155, 160. Then here the buyers would take over from a long-term perspective, and I have my next alert around the 100, which is a very strong round number, and 75 because it is this demand area. So I'll be looking for buys around here, right? Of course, on lower time frames to catch this impulse movement upward. And next, from a long-term perspective, I'll be waiting for this to add more longs. But for now, we know that we are overall bearish. Let's try to find like a trend line or channel that engulfs the overall movement downward. We can clearly draw this one here, and I always like to make an offset for it to cover the overall movement. And lately, we could even draw another trend line, which is around this area. We can see it better from H4, but let's take to daily time frame. We can see that this one is getting flatter, and the flat, right? So a steep channel, a flat channel, now waiting for the bulls to take over again. Next, I delete my trend lines now to keep my chart clean, but we already got the idea. Next, now we can draw this trend line here because now the bulls failed to make, like the bears failed to make a low. Instead, the bulls kicked in and make a higher low. So we've got our first impulse, second impulse. Like even though we didn't have a higher high, but it's enough to draw an overall direction for this small one. You can make an offset for it. You can drag and drop it lower to cover the entire structure. Also, you can make it horizontal, so it would be like it would be like an ascending triangle in this case, but let's stick to it like this. So long story short, right, approaching a demand area, approaching the lower trend line from daily time frame, will be looking for buy stops. We don't buy blindly. I'll be looking for buy stops here. That's why my alert is here. Or if price breaks it downward, then we might have a movement lower than here. That's why I have another alert around this area. If price trades lower, I know that around 75, I zoom into lower time frames and look for buy stops. Okay, it's very important to put alerts because, like, if you are monitoring many like instruments, to know that okay, I'm only want to check this chart and take action if it reaches this area. Okay. So next, I wanted to appear on lower time frames. Let's see if we got fantastic. So now if you zoom into H4, we can see that we are currently, okay, let's wait for it. Fantastic. Okay, so we were bullish previously. We had also the same head and shoulders that we saw on many altcoins previously and on Ethereum. If you remember, we saw a head and shoulders, price pocket downward, and the bearish movement started. The exact same opposite. For now, we can zoom into our time frames if you want to see it better. And for now, we can draw this trend line here, and we can even make an offset for it to look like a wedge pattern. Right, so this is basically it. I'm waiting for the bulls to take over by breaking above this trend line. In this case, I'll be buying on spec upward. Because why? Because like for those who know me from TradingView, I always mention like this: we are overall bullish, right? And approaching this area, and this would be our trigger. Okay, so that would be it. Of course, if this happens, if not, we can break downward below it. And in this case, a movement lower would be expected. And as mentioned previously, the next rejection in this case would be around here. Okay, that's it. Now, like, we'll go over as many cases as possible. You can apply the same logic if you can notice on almost all instruments, whether it's like Forex, stock, or whatever you are trading. You can apply the same logic. And for now, like, we'll go over many examples. As you can see, I have a big list, so feel free to request anything. I'll check the comments. Okay, let me know if you have any questions so far. Cheers. Okay, let's do it. I'll check the comments again in a bit. Okay, we've got one more example here, but like I already have my charts to save time and go over as many examples as possible. We start from weekly time frame, right? The exact same logic that we applied previously, and we made two examples from scratch. But for this one, we already have it here. Our lower brown trend line acting as a non-horizontal support, and the upper brown trend line acting as a non-horizontal resistance. Of course, it's an entire area and not a laser level, so you should treat it like this, right? But I'll keep it clean, and for vice versa in the case of the lower one, but I'll keep it as mentioned clean. But you know that it's an entire area, just like a horizontal support and resistance, like not a laser level. Okay, so the exact same thing here. I have two alerts. The first one is if price dives inside this area, or like starting from now, I'll be looking for buy stops. The bears can still kick in and trade lower and lower before trading higher, because we've got a demand area here, an aggressive movement upward from it. So overall direction, check, bullish, approaching the lower band, looking for buy stops. Second, rejection, check. We've got our lower band trend line, a demand area. We are looking for buy stops. 3, we've got our trigger. For our trigger, we zoom into lower time frames and wait for it. Meanwhile, until the buyers take over, we can still trade lower and lower. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. You don't get stuck in a bad trade. Okay, that would be it on daily time frame. We can see that we previously were overall let's start from here. You know what? Let's take more examples. So let's start previously. Okay, that's the power of the daily time frame. It's very important, no matter your experience. The daily time frame says it all. Okay, so we're bullish for the bears to take over. We need to see a break below the previous low, which didn't happen, right? Until here. So a very clean impulse correction, a massive impulse trading higher. Then price got inside this area here and then broke below the previous low. So starting from here, we know that we are now in a possible bearish trend, impulse correction, got stuck inside this consolidation here and then traded lower and traded lower. We've got what? This demand area, an aggressive movement upwards. So previously we can identify it like this, an aggressive movement upwards. So as price approaches it again, obviously we'll be looking for buy stops, and that's it. And previously, like 1 year ago, I posted this like one on TradingView that it's approaching a demand area while looking for buy setups, and price is currently overall bearish, waiting for the bulls to take over before we buy, and like this would be our confirmation that the bulls are finally taking over. Of course, we've got this low here also, but like I always wait for extra confirmation. So we are obviously overall bearish, impulse pushing lower and lower, lower highs and lower lows, until eventually the bulls took over after a break above this area. So now we are bullish, big impulse, small correction, big impulse, a quick and aggressive correction before we trade higher again, and then big impulse movement. Then we had this rejection, price got inside this consolidation to retest this area here, and then we clearly had, sorry about that, we clearly had this break below this low. And look at how clean it is. And we also had this channel here. We can make an offset for it. This is it, right? So it would be like a trend continuation one, which would be, let me show to you, price range. That's it. So this impulse movement, rejection from here, correction, and then we expect the same distance down there. So if we make it like this, here we go, right? So this is it anyway. So price took over, the sellers took over here, traded lower, and so on. So for now, we were trading inside this big wedge pattern, right? Because we want to find the trend lines that engulfs the overall movement, which is very obvious. This trend line here, we've got multiple rejections from it, trading lower, and now finally price broke it upward, but the buyers aren't in full control yet. From a long-term perspective, of course, for them to take over from a long-term perspective, we still need to see a break above this area, just like previously, a break above this area. Then we'll expect an aggressive movement upward or a long-term shift in momentum. So that's why I have my first alert here. I'm waiting for this break. Meanwhile, inside this range, so as price approaches the lower band of the range, I'll be looking for buy setups on lower time frames also to catch this movement, because we are around a very strong support area, a trend line, this green demand zone, and so on, right? So of course we zoom into lower time frames, and like here we go, we previously had this channel, then we had this head and shoulders, traded lower. For now we are looking for buy setups, and this is it, the exact same channel and analysis we saw on one and previously. We've got this channel forming, waiting for this swing to get bigger, to consider it our trigger swing, and then we'll be buying on swing outward. If we check left, we also got these two here. Okay, but in this case, we not only want a break above it, we want a break above this trend line, because it might hold the price down. Okay, so like this is what I usually do. I go like this and make this one as our trigger, and waiting for this, because I want to add a support area. Meanwhile, until this happens, we can still trade lower. We got our impulse correction. We can still break below these lows, push lower and push lower, right, before the bulls take over. But for now, around the support, we are looking for buy stops. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. Okay, let's go for our next example. Before that, let me check the comments real quick. Okay, you're more than welcome. It's my first time joining this awesome, fantastic. This is my first time here too. So let's see how it goes. I'll be like going live every Thursday at the same time. So like which is like 1 hour earlier from now. So like if you like this kind of like analysis, save it to your calendar, and I would be happy to see you. Okay. Okay, I don't really know what this means. BGU. I'm sorry. Okay, we have Aaron. Do you set pending orders? I personally don't, because like we have two kinds of pending orders. We've got a limit order and a stop order, right? So for example, let's go for this one. So for example, like I don't use pending orders. First of all, let's cover the stop one first, right? So like, which is like a buy stop here. I don't want to buy immediately or blindly here, because I want to wait for the buyers to form or like to break it, to confirm to me that they are strong enough to break above this level. So I need a momentum candle close above this area. Okay, so like that's why I don't use pending orders. I put my alert here, right? So for example, I put my alert like this, and then when this happens, I get notified. If it's just a wick, I don't want to enter. It might be just a wick, and then price can trade lower. Always wait for the candle to close. Okay, so like this is it. And second, okay, so like this is the first pending order type, which is a stop order. For the limit order, I also don't use the limit orders. For example, like some traders will produce, for example, they put a sell limit here, like because we've got a support and resistance, right? So like I personally don't, because I always zoom into lower time frames for extra confirmation, because the buyers can still kick in and break upward. As you can see here, we've got many wicks, right? So like if you put your sell limit here, price can go up and trade higher and kick you out. Okay, that's why it's always good to wait for extra confirmation and trigger. And again, like, there is no right or wrong. It depends on your trading style, on your time, expectations, and so on. Okay, but like you ask me my opinion and my trading style, I don't use like buy limit. Like even though price is approaching now a very strong level, I don't put a buy limit here, because price can still trade lower and dive inside the demand, like this, for example, before trading higher. Okay. Okay, fantastic. Let me go over one more example, and then I'll check the comments again. Hope you guys are enjoying the session. Of course, if you are enjoying it and find the content useful, don't forget to smash the like button. It will help the video reach more traders. Of course, if you wanted to reach more traders. So let's continue. Next, we've got Tezos XTZ. If you, as usual, we go for the weekly time frame. This one is very clean, right? So like it's very straightforward. We've got a rising broadening wedge. Anyway, don't worry about the name. We've got this area here, but like the rising broadening wedge, a good thing about it that you should know is that the bigger the impulse, the bigger the correction, right? So previously we had an impulse this much, then we had a similar correction to it, then we had an impulse this much, a similar correction. A bigger impulse results in a bigger correction. Bigger impulse, bigger correction, because this one is getting wider and wider, wider and wilder, right? So like be careful of rising broadening, of a rising broadening wedge in this particular case. So as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for areas to close our sell. Of course, like I'm talking about like for spot traders. Okay. Because keep in mind that nothing can trade forever in the same direction, right? We'll always have corrections, but sometimes the correction would be very deep. So you don't want to be caught inside a correction this deep. Okay, like sitting in a correction, like a normal correction is fine, right? But like this deep correction, like it wouldn't be like healthy for your portfolio and so on. Anyway, we are overall bullish for the overall trend. Check. Overall bullish, right? You don't need like anything to tell me that you are bullish. Second, rejection. Amazing. A demand zone, aggressive movement upward, lower trend line, horizontal support, right? So this is area. This area is an interesting one because it's the intersection of two rejections, the non-horizontal support and the demand area. Okay, so rejection, check. Third, our trigger. We zoom into lower time frame. Let's zoom into daily first. Okay, on daily time frame, here we go. We previously had this channel in red. Okay, so that's our first, or like, sorry, that's our last swing high. So for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above it. Of course, on lower time frames, we have this channel, the scratch pattern. On lower time frames, as price approaches the lower bound, the support area, I can look for bar setups, right? But I'm talking about this one from a long-term perspective. Of course, if you check previously, we know that we were overall bearish previously, then price broke above the previous high, now we are bullish, and so on. The exact same like case, we apply it here while waiting for the bulls to take over, and lately price is stuck inside the symmetric triangle, which we also saw on many altcoins, on Ethereum and so on. So as price approaches the lower bound, which is around this area, which is also a demand, I'll be looking for buy setups on lower time frames. But from a long-term perspective, I want a break above this last swing of this trend line. And if you want to be conservative, you can wait for the last swing of this trend line, which is a bigger swing high. Okay. Meanwhile, we'll be looking for buys on lower time frames, the exact same scenario. We previously were bearish, broke out the previous high, traded higher, then broke out the previous low, traded lower. Now we're waiting for a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. Of course, this is from a short-term, medium-term perspective, but the long-term perspective is from daily time frame. So for now, we might have, for example, a head and shoulders pattern here, right? So this would be our neckline. We look left, we can see this swing. So we've got our left, head, and right shoulder, and this would be as a support, and price can still trade higher before meeting the next rejection, which might be this trend line in orange, which rejected the price multiple times previously. Okay, let's go for our next one, Helium, which is also very interesting. HNT. Let me check the comments real quick before we get into Helium. Fantastic. Let's go over Helium and then I'll check the comments again. So on HNT, overall direction, check. Overall bullish. Obviously, I don't need anything to tell me, right? Second, rejection, right? Overall bullish. So we got a trend line here in brown, which is our non-horizontal support. Now price is approaching this trend line, so we are looking for buy setups. Of course, the sellers can still kick in and or remain in control and trade lower and lower. That's why we don't buy blindly. We always wait for extra confirmation. Second, our second rejection is this demand area, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it, and price is currently retesting it. Okay. Third, we've got our support and resistance here, which is this entire area. Here we go. Acted as resistance previously, price broke upwards, now acting as support, right? So that being said, well, we know that we're in the market from a higher time frames. Now we zoom into lower time frames for extra confirmation. If we go to daily time frame, we can see that as per market structure, let me read these ones to make it cleaner, and like just to show you that how you can see a shift in momentum before it happens. We've got a big impulse movement, right? And then we still have a big one that's smaller than this one, and then we can see that it's going flat, which means that the sellers aren't strong enough to push as strong as they were pushing previously. Okay, that's the wedge pattern. Anyway, that's what the wedge pattern is after all. Okay, so you can see that even though the sellers are still in control and pushing lower, but they are not able to push lower previously to form a channel, right? So that's what a wedge pattern is, which is obviously stronger as a reversal pattern, is stronger than a channel. Okay, so that's it from a zoom out perspective. Overall bullish, approaching a support and a demand area, waiting for the bulls to take over. From a long-term perspective, we are around, like this is our last swing around the trend line, so we're still waiting for a momentum candle close above it. If you zoom in, you can see that only wicks. That's why, and to answer your question, which is like the last one that I highlighted in the comments, that I don't put pending orders. I don't put that buy stop here. I don't want to buy just because price reached there, because we can still reject it and trade lower, right? So I want a full daily candle close above it to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over. Okay, so that's it. I'm waiting for this break. Of course, if you want to be even more conservative, this is a bigger swing, so you can also wait for here. Like for example, you can buy some here and you can add some here. From a short-term perspective or medium-term perspective, you can zoom in here to lower time frame, just like we did previously on many altcoins and Ethereum, Bitcoin, and so on. And you can wait for any bullish reversal setup. For example, we've got this. Sorry, we've got this channel here, and this is our last high. If we check left, we can see these highs here. So this is basically it. Okay, we'll be waiting for a breakup over to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over. Okay, let's check the next one. I've got like a whole bunch of like instruments that I'm going over one after the other. Let me know if you would like me to go over a specific instrument in the comment section. Meanwhile, I'll take a break and cheers. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll go over one more. I can still like go over these ones as much as you want. I can go all night. So this is it. Also, overall bullish, right? So like this is not like the strongest line, but it's just for overall direction. So we are. Let me delete this one from weekly. I don't want to see it here. Fantastic. So we are overall bullish, approaching this demand area, aggressive movement upward from it. And so we are looking for buy stops, of course, unless we have a break below it again, then it would become a resistance, and like a bearish movement or next bearish impulse would be expected. For now, we are bullish, approaching a support, so overall direction, check. Rejection, check. Now we are waiting for our trigger or looking for buy setups in this particular case. We've got our wedge pattern, and also that's one more example for you. I don't put a buy stop here because price can still go up, trigger my buy stop, and then trade lower. Okay, so it's like when it comes to crypto, forex, or whatever you are trading, I personally don't go for like buy stops. I always wait for a candle close, which didn't happen, right? So price instead reject this area, which is obviously a support and resistance. I want this resistance to be broken upward with a big, strong candle to show me that the buyers are strong enough to break above it. Then and only then when I'd be interested in buying. Okay, so from a long-term perspective, I'll be waiting for this to happen, right? And meanwhile, it's approaching this lower bound of the range, staying inside this range now, approaching the lower bound. So we can always zoom into lower time frames and look for extra confirmation. As you can clearly see, we were overall bullish previously, made a higher high, higher low, and so on. And price broke with the previous low, broke, retest, didn't make high, didn't trade higher, instead started to make lower highs and lower lows, right? So now we are waiting for the bull to take over, because clearly now the bears took over here and here from a short-term perspective, waiting for the exact opposite to happen, for the bull to take over here and to expect a bullish movement. Here we go. We've got the trend line 1, 2, and 3. That's it. So we might see one more swing forming before we trade higher, but this is basically it. As long as we are making lower highs and lower lows, we are bearish. We can still trade lower and lower and lower until eventually the buyers break above the previous high. Okay. Okay. I don't know what happened. Okay, fantastic. Let's do one more. Before I go over one more, let me check the chat. Okay. Okay, so we've got many questions. I'll go over it one by one. When do you enter a trade that would you target? Yes, when you enter a trade, what would you target? It depends on your trading style, expectations. If you are trading it on spot, on margin, and so on. But like I'll give you an example for both. Okay, I'll keep your comments here while I'll check. Okay, sorry about that. Give me a minute. Okay, so I'll keep your comment on the chart while I'll go over this example. Okay, so for one example, if you are trading it on margin, for as mentioned previously, you always have to target double your risk. Okay, so and like I go over it in terms of R. So you can risk 1%, your R will be 1%. You can risk 2%, it would be 2%. Okay, so let's say price makes like this. Of course, like this setup is not formed yet, it's not complete yet, but let's say price forms like this and breaks it upward. I want to enter the buy here, right? So I enter my long. The stop loss is, as mentioned previously, below the last low, because now I'm speculating the price will be making higher highs and higher lows instead of like keep trading lower. Okay, so if it keeps trading lower to make it lower, then my trade is no longer valid. I want to be out. Okay, that's why the stop loss placement should be from a technical perspective, right? An area where your trade is proven to be no longer valid. Okay, and in this case, like let's say it's here, and you target a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio at least, to have an edge over the market from a risk management perspective, because we already have our technical edge. So in this case, your risk would be R, your reward would be 2R, right? So if you risk 1%, your reward would be 2%. If you risk 2%, this one would be 4%, and so on. Okay. Like I don't really recommend any risk per trade more than 3%. Okay, so one is like the best to me. Like you can enter as many trades as possible. You will need 100 losing trades in a row for you to blow your account. Okay, like a mistake traders usually mean is that they enter like 50% of their account in one single trade. Like I don't know what to say, like, but because like two trades losing in a row and you will blow your account, right? So like we can't really control the market. We can't really know what might happen next. Our main job as traders is through risk management. We are risk managers, not only traders. So the only thing we have control on is our risk, right? So we are trying to find areas on the chart from a technical perspective, which I'm going over today, to have an edge, right, an edge over the market from a technical perspective, and we also need an edge from a risk management perspective. Okay, so if you're targeting 2R, you are fine, even if you have a win rate of as low as 50%, or even like 40%. Okay, so you are doing fine. It's not how much you win, right, and how much you lose. It's how much you win when you win and how much you lose when you lose. This is what matters. Okay, so when you lose small. When you win big. Okay, this is for. Let me check the chat again. Okay, Gori, I truly appreciate your effort for free and for fair guidance. It is truly an honor. I'm very happy to see you here. Lee, super clean, fantastic. I'm glad you like it. Thanks for sharing the information contained. You are super teacher. You are more than welcome. I'm very happy to see you here. Great information. Okay. Fantastic. We've got many comments. I have zero analysis, but can understand you. Okay, fantastic. This is it. I'll hide the comments for now. I'm sorry about the noise. Okay, so let's continue, right? So like, if you would like, I can like keep rolling for like 20-30 minutes. So let's see how it goes. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want like a specific instrument that you want me to go over, I'd be happy to. Of course, like try your best to be a crypto instrument for today. If you want me to go over an index, like or like a CFD instrument, which is like Forex and so on, I'll be happy to do it next week. Okay, so okay, let's do it. Let's continue. Okay, we've got 1 inch. It's also a good project. Cheers. Okay, on weekly time frame, we don't really have enough data, at least from Binance, right? So like sometimes if you don't have enough data on one exchange, you can always search if you have like more data on a different exchange, right? If you can't really find one, right? So you can just stick to it, like whatever chart that you have. So on 1 inch, price is approaching a strong demand area. We can see an aggressive movement upward from it. This is for overall direction. We just see a range, right? We can't really see a clear direction, either upward or downward. So we want to look for our rejections. Okay, of course, we've got the upper bound of the range, which is around 8. Let me add it real quick. Here we go. We've got the 5, which is a very strong round number. And we also got this support and resistance here, right? Multiple rejections from it, was acting as support previously. Price broke it downward, now acting as resistance and resistance again. It's also a supply zone as we have an aggressive movement downward from here. Next, we've got this area here, right? And many rejections from it, support, 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 and so on, and now acting as a resistance. Next, we've got this round numbers 1 and 1.5. Of course, like the 1 is the stronger one, right? But like let's keep the 1.5 anyway, because like it is this entire demand area, because we have an aggressive movement upward from it. Now approaching a support area, we need to zoom into lower time frames to look for buy setups. Right, if we zoom in, we can see that we were overall bullish previously, making higher highs and high lows. Then price formed a low here and broke it downward, started to make lower highs and low lows. Right, so price didn't break out of this high. That's the power of waiting for extra confirmation. This one was acting as support, right? So we zoomed in previously. Price approaches this area, a support area. Let's zoom into lower time frame, look for buy setups. We can see that here price didn't break above it, instead broke this resistance and kept moving lower and lower, right? Okay, give me a second. Yes, so this is it. Price kept moving lower. That's why it's very important to wait for the bulls to take over. The exact same logic can be applied here. We've got a channel forming, right? The bears are still in control, making lower highs, lower lows, lower lows, lower highs. Here we go. Now this is the first time where we have a deep correction. Previously, the bears are like in full control. The bulls are not even letting the bulls make a strong correction, just a minor one, a couple of candles before we trade lower again, a couple of candles before we trade lower. However, here, as you can see, the price failed to make a lower low, instead made a higher low, and then price broke above it. So the bulls took over here from a medium term perspective, but this is still our main one, which is the bigger one. So for the push to take over here from a long-term perspective, we need to see a break above this area. That's why you see my alert here. We also got what? We also got an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So here's our head, our left shoulder. Oops, we got multiple ones. So left shoulder and right shoulder. All right. So this is it. Overall bearish, approaching the lower bounds, looking for buy stops because we are approaching a support area, and then we'll be buying on break upward. Of course, we can always zoom into lower time frames and look for buy setups. Now, okay, let's go for this one. We got KDA. On KDA, we are obviously this chart is very clean, right? So we were bullish previously, higher highs, higher lows, big impulse movements pushing price higher. Then price performed this low, broke it downward, retest, and starting from here, we are overall bearish from a long-term perspective. Of course, the bulls took over here and then traded higher, took over here, traded higher, right? But this is just a correction before another big bearish impulse movement kick in. So we could draw this channel, as you can see in blue, right? So just like we saw on 1 inch, but we didn't have the break yet. we have a small swing here that for the buyers to take over from a medium-term perspective, we need a break above it. But from a long-term perspective, for the buyers to take over, we need to a break above this full swing, this big swing, because this one is clearly bigger than this one. Okay, so the way to approach it, if you are trading it on spot, you can enter some here, right, and you can add more if this one breaks higher. Okay, it depends on your trading style and so on. We are looking for buy stops in the first place because we are approaching a very strong demand area, which we can see on weekly, but we don't have enough data. Anyway, we've got this demand area here because we have an aggressive movement upward from it, which is also around number 5, and we can add the 10, which would be not this one, which would be around here, around this area, right? Look at how strong our 10 is. A support previously broken downward, now acting as a resistance, still acting as a resistance. So if the buyers manage to break above it, which would also be this swing high, then the bulls would take over from a long-term perspective. Of course, meanwhile, on lower time frames, you can zoom in to H4, for example, and look for buy setups around here. But it's very important to always start from the higher time frames. We can clearly see that we can draw a trend line, which we can draw it anyway on many coins. So now for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break above this trend line. Okay, let's go over one more. I can go over like all day long. Let me check the chat. You are light and in the dark. I have never seen a teacher like you. thank you so much, Guri. Like I'm truly flattered. I don't know what to say. If you noticed, I can't really find the words. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you like these sessions. Fantastic. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I would be happy to answer it, like whether it's about technical analysis in general, about a specific coin or token, about like a specific tool like supply and resistance, supply and demand, specific pattern like head and shoulders, like symmetric triangles, and so on. And don't forget to smash the like button. It will help it will help the video reach more traders if you believe that this video worth being shared. Okay, I have the bell of the church now. It will last for 1 minute, so I don't want to bother you with the sound because it's a strong one. My office is very close to that church, so I will mute myself for like 1 minute, and I take a break, and then we'll continue. Okay. Okay, I'm back now. So let's go over this one. Can you explain about higher highs and lower low clearly? Sure, let's do it. Okay, so when you are like, now of course, like this is market structure 101, right? So it's a very basic one. So when you are in a bullish trend, right, so are going higher, and we know that nothing goes up straight, right? So like no matter how strong it is, the bullish trend, you will always see correction. Sometimes it would be a small correction, a flat correction, a bigger correction, or sometimes it would be a giant one, right? It depends on the chart and so on. And usually inside these giant swings, you will see you will see smaller ones. Let me make it aside. Here we go. So like usually inside this big trend, which is obviously would be from daily time frame, you will see like smaller trends inside it, right? So like this, if you zoom into lower time frames, you might see it as a line on daily, but on lower time frames it would be like this. Okay, so like what is a trend? If you are bullish, you will obviously see the price trading higher, right? But since it doesn't trade in a laser level, in a straight line, you will see it like this, right? So like this is known as you mentioned as high. So we got an HH, which is a higher high, right? And the low and the higher low, which is HL or higher low, you will get a higher low and a higher high. Okay. Of course, like you mentioned, also LL, which is a low low, of course. But let's take to this one. So when we are overall bullish, right, we know that we are bullish because price is trading higher, either with the higher highs and higher lows. Next, you get an early alert that a potential reversal might happen, which I mentioned many times previously in my previous analysis for the altcoins, is that you will see that the impulse movements are getting smaller in size. So big impulse, now it's getting smaller, or they are still pushing higher. You can still see a higher high, right? But it's getting flat, right? So it was very steep previously, then it's getting like maybe like this, flat. Okay, that's how you know that it's just still a higher high. The bulls are still in control. Like the bulls won like if you want like won the battle. If you want like this is a battle, the bulls won it, traded higher. This is a battle, won it, traded higher, and like this is the entire war. Okay, so like this is how you know that who is currently in control and how strong they are currently in control. Okay, that's how you feel the overall market about what might happen next, right? If you are in a bullish trend, you can like feel that okay, the buyers are still in control, so you might expect further movement upward. How to know that the bulls are very strong? Of course, vice versa in case of a bearish trend. So if the bulls are not letting the sellers even make a correction, so we will have a correction, but sometimes it would be like very small or even flat, right? Which we saw previously on many examples. So the bulls are very strong, not even letting the bears making a downward movement, right? Instead, trade higher, a flat correction or like a small range, and then price breaks it upward again and trade higher. Then a flat one, then trade higher. When you see healthy correction, it's just like a normal one. But when you start to see a bigger correction like this, right, we are still trading higher, but you see a bigger correction. It means that the bears are kicking in harder than previously, but the bulls are still in control, right? For the bears to take over, and obviously we need to see a break below the previous low. Now, like most probably, most of the time, you will see like this, and then you will see a lower high, which also give you an early alert that the bulls aren't strong enough to make a higher high, instead made a lower high, and then you'll be waiting for but it's just an early alert. It can just be a correction, a bigger one, before we even trade higher. So it would be a trend continuation one. Okay, for the bears to take over, we need to see this a break below it with a big momentum candle. That's how you know that we might have a shift in momentum. And anyway, you will be seeing it if you check the chart. You can see that it's going flat, and like previous it was steep, going flat, and the impulse are getting smaller, correction are getting bigger, until eventually the sellers take over. So when you see this, right now we are where in a possible bearish trend, you will see then lower highs, right, and lower lows, and the same exact like logic can be applied when you see that the impulse are getting small and flat, right? You know that we might have a potential reversal. I'm sorry, a potential reversal from bearish to bullish, but for it to be confirmed, we need to see a break above the previous high. If the previous high is very small, just like we saw many examples, then you can go for the previous, or like the one before it, which would be bigger. Okay, so hope I answered your question. Let me know if you still have any more questions about this one. If it's clear, it is fantastic. Okay, fantastic. No more questions. Let's do it. Now, let's go over GRT. GRT also, just like we saw previously on 1 inch, it's currently approaching a very strong demand area, right? So we are looking for buy setups. However, we are overall bearish now. You can see it from daily time frame. So we were bullish previously. Here we go. Let me give you like many examples. Okay, so we were bullish, broke the previous low, a impulse, a classic correction, retested the previous low and traded lower. So big impulse, right? So like this is also like to answer your question, big impulse, small correction, big impulse, small correction, and look at how small this impulse is, right? So look, if you compare this one to this one, very steep and strong, but look at how small this one is. Then the bears couldn't push lower and make a lower low, instead made a higher low, which is an early alert that a potential reversal might happen, and it would be confirmed after the buyers finally take over and break above the previous high. So now the bulls took over, but it has, you can see here, the bullish trend didn't last for long. Traded higher, correction, impulse, and look at how flat this impulse is, couldn't make higher. Then the bears took over again by breaking below this low, right? So this is it, broken downward, and then the bulls took over again by breaking above these highs. So like just by comparing or the highs and lows from the design team, you can get a very good idea about the overall direction. Traded higher, started to make higher highs, higher lows, right? Then failed to make a higher high, instead made a lower high, and then, which is obviously a head and shoulders pattern, and then price broke it downward and the bearish trend started. We've got this impulse, correction, big impulse, small correction, a impulse, but it's smaller than the previous ones. Look at how steep, big, steep and big, small and flat, right? It's just an early alert that we might have a potential reversal, but it's not confirmed yet. We still need a break above the high. Then the price here traded higher. We might see a higher low, right? Which is obviously what? Which is like head and shoulders is after all simply a market structure pattern, right? So lower low, then a higher low. It's just the inverse head and shoulders pattern, and vice versa. Higher high, lower high. It is the head and shoulders pattern. Okay. So from a long-term perspective, for the bull to take over, we still need to see a break above the neckline, which is covering the entire structure, which would be this break here. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower and lower before we trade higher. But if you want, you can also zoom into, depends on your trading style and so on. We've got a minor demand area here, so price can retest this area. Here we go, before trading higher. So we always zoom into lower time frames and look for confirmation. Here we go, broken upward, bullish, our overall bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. Then as low as broken downward, we trade it lower. If you apply the same logic, we are now trading lower. This is our last high, lower high, lower high, and so on. Right? You can draw a trend line here. Here we go, which we saw on many coins, right? So like as you can see, this trend line is already broken. Sorry, so we can't really know what like might happen next, so we can still trade lower like this before we trade higher, or we might also have a head and shoulders pattern like this. So left shoulder, head here. We might also have this right shoulder, so left, head, right, and before we break higher. But we are waiting for the buyers to take over from a long-term perspective. Okay, So we've got Huobi, which is an exchange, which is really interesting chart. I'll tell you why in a bit. I don't want to see this one on weekly. Fantastic. I'll check the comments real quick before I go over HT. Okay, when you look, okay, we've got a comment. When you look for a break of zone with momentum, are you looking to enter immediately or retest? It depends on your style, and it depends on how big the candle is. If it's like too big, it will result in a bad risk to reward ratio because the stop loss would be big. Then in this case, you will wait for a retest. Or like I personally, this is how I do it. I always like enter immediately after the candle closes because price like sometimes might not retest, so we might like just like break and trade higher immediately. So that's why it's always important like to enter immediately, because we might not retest, especially when the buyers are very strong. Okay, of course, in case of a buy, right? So but unless the candle is very huge, okay, so if it's too big, then this is simply a skip the trade. Okay, if it's big but it's not too big, then I'll wait for a retest to provide me with a better risk to reward ratio. But of course, it depends on what suits your time. So for example, if waiting for a retest suits your time more because you would have more time like to act, right? So like you can follow it, but like I always recommend that you follow one approach only. So if you want to wait for a retest, always wait for it. If you want like to enter immediately, enter immediately. So like don't shift styles. Gosh, this is so simple and clear, very apt. I'm very happy that you liked my style. I'll see you hopefully next Thursday also. Fantastic. So I'll go over like one or two examples more. Like for so far we have been live for 1 hour 42 minutes. So like my target was 2 hours. Let's see if we can get it. If you like the content and you would like me to keep going, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to smash the like button. It will help the channel grow. It will help this video to reach more traders and so on. So let's do it. Okay, we've got Huobi, right? This is it. Okay, let me read these ones because like I was giving an example previously, but I always like to. Anyway, I draw it like this sometimes to like show you like that the trend lines are literally any overall zone and not a laser level, right? But of course, when I draw it on my personal charts, I just go for simple lines. But you have to keep in mind that it's always an entire zone. That's why we don't buy just because a trend line, a laser line is broken. So in this case, like we don't buy because we just have a break. We always wait for like the entire range to be broken upward, which is in this case this area here. Okay. So on HE, on Huobi, we've got an overall trend. We've got a very strong support and resistance, was acting as resistance previously many times, broken upward, now acting as support. Moreover, we've got this aggressive movement upward from here, which is basically a demand area. So I can draw it, but I didn't draw it because I want to make my chart clean, right, to keep it clean. And next we've got this non-horizontal support. So this area is a very strong zone to look for buy setups. Of course, price can still dive lower before trading higher, but for now it has been stuck inside this consolidation for a while. So it would be really interesting to see a breakout of it. Okay, I'm sorry again about the church bell. Okay, so like for this time I'll continue. Okay, so we are currently stuck inside this range, but we are still, it's a range in the shape of a falling channel, right? So we are overall bearish, making low lows and lower highs, but we see that the sellers are exhausted. They couldn't push like very strong, very lower. We previously can see that we were overall bearish previously, broke above the previous high, we traded higher, then we broke above the previous low, traded lower, broke above the previous high, traded higher. So what now is like I said, a range we don't really have a clear direction, either upward or downward. So what we know so far is that we are bearish. trading inside this channel. We are looking for buy setups, so we are waiting for a break above this area. And meanwhile, we can still trade lower and lower, right, to dive inside the support before we trade higher. Trading is reactive and not predictive. Always wait for the buyers to take over before you buy. Okay, let me mute myself. Okay, fantastic. Okay, similar to how I trade, fantastic. I'm glad that we shared the same style. Fantastic. Okay, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll go for one more chart or two. It depends if you have questions or you have specific instrument that you would like me to go over. On BNB, like I add this one because it's like a little bit different, right? We are currently stuck inside this giant symmetric triangle, unlike the previous ones where we saw an overall bullish movement, overall bearish movement, or range, right? So like I try to cover as many cases as possible so you can apply the same logic on other coins. For this one, we've got a symmetric triangle, right? So we can see that we've got big impulse pushing upward and downward, but we don't have a clear direction, especially after this very big impulse movement, right? So this one would be interesting to see that if we might have a break above it, then we would get a projection like that big, right? So because we've got our first impulse previously, right? So it would be like a giant one, for, of course, for weekly time frame. So big impulse correction and then a big impulse. Anyway, for now, since it's from weekly, as price approaches the lower bound, we'll be looking for buy setups, and as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for sell setups. Or if you are trading it on spot, you can look for buys here, and then as price approaches this area, you can look for confirmation that the bears are taking over to close your sell. Sorry, to close your buy. Okay. So approaching the lower bounds, looking for buy setups. We zoom into lower time frames. We have this channel. If we check previously, you can see that this one is very clean. We were overall bullish previously. We couldn't break below the previous low. Instead, made like a pennant pattern and then traded higher. So the projection of it was like the, where is it? Here we go, price range better. So here our projection, and then this is our projection. That's it, right? So anyway, let's focus on the current. But I'd like to give you an example. Price traded higher, couldn't break below the previous low. Around here, we have this minor resistance and support, which is also the previous low, broken downward. The sellers took over, then we were stuck inside this range here, and the buyers took over here, then the price traded higher, formed this like consolidation, and price traded lower, broke it downward. Now we are bearish, now we are bullish, traded higher highs and high lows, and we've got this low broken down. And this is how clean it is. If you check the daily time frame, it's very important. Of course, it's just for overall direction. Then you zoom into lower time frames and look for setups. For example, if you've got like your daily time frame broken downward on the retest, you can zoom into lower time frames and look for sell setups, right? Vice versa. The last high from daily is broken upward. On the retest, you can zoom into lower time frames and look for buy setups. Vice versa. If price breaks the previous low on the retest, you can look for sell setups, right? So this is what we are waiting for on daily time frame for now. We are clearly overall bearish, making lower highs and lower lows, trading inside this channel. Of course, unless we have a break below this entire area, then our support would become a resistance, and we'll be looking for sell on the retest for those who trade on margin. And like for spot traders, we are still waiting for the buyers to kick in. We don't really have a momentum, a big candle closing, big candle closing above it. I still have my alert here around 455. So I'm still waiting for a candle to break above these highs, and mainly above this last high here. Meanwhile, we can still trade low, but I'm not going to look for buys around here for now, because we're around this area, so price can reject it. Now, if it trades lower till around our 350, which are these lows, which is our lower band. That's why it's very important to start from daily, because I don't want to look for buys around resistance, right? Unless it's broken upward, I'll be looking for buys, or I'll be buying immediately. It depends on your style. For now, I don't want to buy around resistance, so I'll be waiting for it. If it retests this lower band, and lower brown trend line, lower blue support 350, and these lows here from daily time frame, then I'll be zooming into lower time frames to look for buy setups. Okay. Okay, that would be it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Okay, we've got many questions already, so let's, okay, let me check. No, I went for this one. Yes, went for this one. You have a channel or group? Yes, I'll share it in a bit. Khaled, fantastic. Hope you're doing good. King of Swings, thank you so much, man. I'm flattered. It looks like use 2 touch points for a trend line. You decide to adjust them when further highs or lows are created. Okay, I'll answer your question, but like first, let me go for them one by one. Do you have a group or a channel? Yes, I do have a free one where I share my analysis from TradingView and YouTube. You can check it. You can check it out. Let me share it here. I guess you'll find it in the links below. I'm not really sure, but like, let me go for a text. You can go for like add the signalist on. Okay, let me make it like this. Add the signalist. This is on. Here we go. This one is on Telegram. If you want to like, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it is Rich the Signalist. Okay. So this is for Instagram. Okay. For if you want to like for more videos on YouTube, you can search for me, the Signalist, which is like this. Okay, which is on YouTube. And last but not least, my site is richdl.com. And like as you can see in the description of this video, I guess Cam added it. You can use the coupon, which is linked like this one, trading not. Right, so like when you go to the website and you want to join the paid group, you are more than welcome anytime. So you use the coupon trading not for $100 discount on the package. Okay, so this would be it. I'll leave it there for those who want to screenshot it or like to want to pause it and so on. Okay, but like basically that's it. Signalist, RichTL, and Rich the Signalist on Instagram. Okay, next, let's go for the next question, which is, okay, it looks like you use 2 touch points for a trend line. How do you decide to adjust them when further highs or lows? Okay, so we have 2 types of trend lines. We have the rejection trend line. We've got the trigger one. Okay, difference is, okay, let me, to add the above use zigzag indicator, which I find helpful. Fantastic, Aaron. Fantastic. So like, let me put this one aside. Okay, so it depends on you on how you want to approach the trend lines. First of all, as mentioned, as you can see it, we got 2 types. The first one is, yes, we can go for two touches, 1 and 2 for the rejection one, right? So just for overall direction, as price approaches it again, we'll be looking or expecting a reversal from it. However, for the trigger trend line that I want to enter, like when price breaks upward or downward, then I should stick to the ones with the 3 swings, right? Because like from 2 points, right, you can draw like multiple trend lines, right? From this one you can draw this, right? So you can draw a lot of trend lines. But if you got like 3 touches, so 1 to 3, now this trend line is no longer random. It is like most probably that price would respect it once broken upward. Okay, but for overall direction, 2 swings is fine, just like we see on this example on weekly time frame. Right, 2 swings is just fine. But if now I'm looking for buys, I want to look for a trend line break, and I want it to be a trigger. Now, as you can see, I only draw it when you got many swings. All right, I've got many swings here, and now it's like starting from here. Now it's valid, but of course price kept playing lower and lower. So now this last swing, which is sitting around the trend line, is the one that is relevant, that is valid, and vice versa in case of a bullish trend. Right, so that's our first touch. Second, third, now it's valid. I'm waiting for price maybe to break below it, but price kept moving higher and formed this swing. Right, so now this is my trigger swing. I'm waiting for a break for a break below it. Okay, so long story short, a rejection trend line from a higher time frame, 2 swings, a trigger trend line from lower or like lower time frames, or the trigger time frame that you are looking for. Always wait for 3 swings. Okay, that would be it. Okay, let's just like I'll stop like doing analysis. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions. If I wait for 1 minute, if no new questions pop up, quote a session, and we will end it here today. And I'll see you hopefully in the next one. Let me wait for 1 minute. Take a sip. Cheers. Again, I want to say congrats to Cam for like the channel thing not reaching 100k subscribers like 1 hour ago, which is truly amazing. Like I have I have no doubt that it feels so good. Hope you are enjoying, and thank you so much for having me, for your trust, and for the opportunity, Cam. Fantastic. I'm really happy to make these. I'm really happy to make these sessions. Okay. Thank. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to see you. I see you here today. And as you can see, like you are one of the most most active members here, which I truly appreciate and like. I like how we are having a conversation, even like just like a one, like a one side conversation. Hopefully next time, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if yes. I don't know if maybe I'll invite you. I guess I can invite you to the stream and like make a conversation like 101, where you share your video or like share your camera and microphone and so on. Okay, so when will be the next new stream? I'm going live like for me personally, I'm going live every Thursday, and the timing is like two hours earlier from now. Okay, so it's like I know about your time, but to avoid the confusion, it's 2 hours earlier from now every Thursday. I couldn't watch it from the beginning. Yes, don't worry. Like when it's done, when it's posted, like when the stream ends, it will be posted on the channel. Okay, so you can watch it there. Okay, fantastic. You are more than welcome. I'll see you next week, no doubt. Hopefully. Okay, so that would be it. Everyone, hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I have attached my Telegram, my Instagram, my YouTube, and my website. You can like, go to website and go to like the bottom of it. Like you can find a contact page. You can send me an email, or you can simply go to my Instagram profile and DM me. Okay, I would be happy to help everyone out whenever you need. Have questions or anything, and I'll be here. I'll see you on the next one. Best of luck, and bye bye.